Okay. If you guys came here looking for positive reinforcement, if you guys came here thinking that I'm going to say, these are the ways that they can right the ship and things are going to be all right, you came to the wrong place. I can tell you that right now. Today, it's accountability day. And I'm going to be calling people to the front of the congregation, saying that one of my favorite YouTubers say. It's a church reference. Usually, when people get called to the front of the congregation in the old school times, it was a time of accountability. It was a time to hold that person accountable for their wrongdoings. And there's plenty of people we're going to call to the front of the congregation today. First and foremost, I'd be remiss if I don't call this person to the front of the congregation. And I'm going to do it right now, before it's too late. Jalen Hurts, come to the front of the congregation, my friend. Jalen Hurts, come to the front of the congregation. I understand that you were sick. You probably should have stayed out. First drive was beautiful. First drive to start the game was beautiful. Even the drive that ended in 3 points, that was beautiful too. Ended the way I wanted it then. But in the third quarter, Jalen Hurts throws a deep bomb to Quez Watkins that gets intercepted. Woefully underthrown. I'll give him that. He threw that ball too late. I'll give him that. However, two problems with that. I don't understand making that throw in that situation when we're up in the game and all we really need to do is run the clock out. For the majority of the first half, we played a balanced offense. Run, pass, short to intermediate passes over the middle. Running game was working fine. There was no reason to play hero ball in that situation, especially throwing it up to a guy who we all notoriously know he's not a 50-50 goal guy. He's not going to fight over the top for it. People are going to argue that it was defensive pass interference. Yeah, whatever. If I'm Jalen Hurts, I'm not throwing that ball to Quez Watkins. I don't trust Quez Watkins. He's made that painfully obvious this entire season. You just can't trust Quez Watkins on 50-50 deep balls. And I don't even know why you're throwing deep balls in that situation in the game. So I'm going to hold you responsible for that. And then at the end of the game, he did something that is very unorthodox to Jalen Hurts. Jalen Hurts did something that he doesn't typically do. He tried to play hero ball. He tried to throw deep to A.J. Brown, which got intercepted by Jordan Love to end the game. When in that situation, you don't need to go for the deep ball. That was just an outright dumbass move. That was a dumbass decision to go for it all. That was just dumb. All you needed was about anywhere between 10 to 15 yards. Put yourself in field goal range. You send Jake Elliott out there to kick the field goal, you go into overtime. I don't know what's going on in Jalen Hurts' head. I don't know what's going on with the interceptions. I don't know what's going on with the fumbles. I don't know. Turnovers have been absolutely horrible. I believe he's now doubled the amount of turnovers this season compared to last season. And now we're at the end of the season. We're in December. And these things still haven't been corrected. So Jalen Hurts, I'll hold you responsible for that. You were one of the main reasons why the Eagles lost last night. But here's the reason why Jalen Hurts doesn't get all the blame. And I'm not taking blame off of him. I'm not excluding him from blame. Not at all. I'm sharing the blame. Because at the end of the day, while Jalen Hurts throws that ridiculous interception to Quez Watkins in that situation, who called that play in that situation? So this is the kind of shit that I'm talking about when it comes to the play calling. And the reason why I have been very critical of the play callers and the offensive play designs this entire year. Some people point the blame at Brian Johnson as the play caller, which rightfully so. If you're calling the plays on game day, guess what? You're gonna get some of the blame, especially considering the fact that I saw two screens. I saw two tight end / wide receiver screens in which went to Dallas Goedert. One of them, you had your smallest wide receiver in Devontae Smith, who's only 165 pounds, probably soaking wet, fucking blocking. Are you out of your mind? That's a dumbass play design. Why the hell is Dallas Goedert not blocking in that situation? The play designs are absolutely freaking horrible. And they don't make any damn sense. After the beginning sequence of games, it's when all hell breaks loose on offense. And it's absolutely ridiculous that most of the money went towards the offense. The offense is supposed to be holding up their end of the bargain. I predicted that the defense was going to be a problem. We'll get to the defense in a minute. But I predicted that that the defense was going to have its own issues. That's why I put more stock into the offense, because the offense had to score in order for us to win games. The defense kind of sort of, you can argue that the defense kind of sort of did their job. Defense held the Seahawks to 20 points. We're supposed to have this high-octane offense that scores points, and that's supposed to take what the defense gives to us. But instead, now we're trying to force things into spots that doesn't work. The Seahawks were playing the deep ball. They've been doing that the entire year. They're the 28th ranked defense for a reason, because they're not allowing things to go over their head, so now they're allowing teams to nickel and dime them up and down the field. That's the reason why they're the 28th ranked defense. So because of that, you have to take what the defense gives you, not try to force things in spots that doesn't work. That falls on the quarterback, and that falls on the offensive play callers. That falls on Nick Sirianni, and that falls on Brian Johnson, and that falls on Jalen Hurts. Absolutely pitiful. Absolutely pitiful, disgusting. And Jalen Hurts' comments in the press conference after the game disturbed me. I don't remember them verbatim, but he basically said that we are all not executing at the level that we're supposed to. Usually you don't get too much out of Jalen Hurts. But for him to say that, it raised my eyebrow a little bit. Yes, he's been critical of himself in the press conferences. Everybody gets sick and tired of it verbatim because he says it verbatim. I mean, you can't hold him. You can't hold that against him. I don't know what else people want him to say in the press conferences. But for him to basically call everybody out, including coaches, I mean, that's a problem. And we've seen clips this entire season of Jalen Hurts, like, just not receiving information from Brian Johnson, or looking like he doesn't want to receive information from Brian Johnson. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. There's a disconnect between the players and the coaches. There is a serious disconnect between the players and the coaches. And that leads me to the defensive side of the ball. It comes out Sunday from Jay Glazer. I believe Jay Glazer was the first person to report it, that the Eagles, apparently sometime during the course of the week, last week, they switched Matt Patricia and Sean Desai to kind of get a little spark. Kind of kick the defense's ass a little bit, because defense has been absolutely atrocious this entire season. I saw flashes of greatness from the defense. I honestly did. I think the defense very slightly improved. You can only improve so much on a squad that doesn't necessarily have the players to execute, even at an average level. You just don't. I will say I was inspired by the young corners. The young corners play. Eli Ricks naturally is an outside corner, in my opinion. I think that's where his natural position is. Him being forced into the slot was unfair on him. He's not a slot corner. He's definitely an outside corner. I was inspired by Kelee Ringo. He balled his ass out. Sidney Brown for the first half balled out. I think if you if you channel his aggressiveness in a positive direction, I believe he makes some of those tackles. But goddamn, those linebackers! Oh my God! Even the linebackers somewhat made plays, but there were times when the linebackers just didn't execute. They just didn't make plays. Yeah, I'm a little sick under the weather too, but I'm pushed through. I had laryngitis for about a week. But anyway, there's no way you come away from this game and you don't say to yourself, the linebacker position doesn't mean anything. Because if the linebacker position didn't mean anything, Kenneth Walker doesn't get some of those runs, those huge runs that he did. We need fucking linebackers. There's no way you come away from this game without saying to yourself that linebackers are necessary. Because linebackers are certainly necessary to fill up those gaps in the run game. We saw that. We've been seeing that this entire season. Not just in pass coverage are they respected, but in the run game as well, filling those gaps. Linebackers are definitely necessary in defense. Howie Roseman has been neglecting the linebacker position for far too long. You can't do it anymore. And this is a lesson right here. This entire season has been a lesson. You cannot continue to neglect the linebacker position. A lot of people are being critical of Matt Patricia on the last play of the game when the rookie ran past James Bradbury. James Bradbury, at a press conference, said that he was playing the sticks. So basically what that means is he was playing to the first down yard line. So so if the wide receiver goes anywhere past that, he has to cover him. So basically he was cover one-man coverage. Cover one-man off coverage. James Bradbury's cooked. He's cooked. Like, a lot of people are being critical of Matt Patricia. A lot of people are critical of Sidney Brown. Listen, it's not many safeties that can do what Jordan Love did at the end of the game. It's not many. You have to be a very special safety to do so. And Sidney Brown's a rookie, and you can't really you can't expect too much of him. Yes, he has potential, but that falls more on James Bradbury because you're the experienced corner, you're experienced DB, you know the deal. James Bradbury is cooked. He is done. He should not have been out there on the field. And I think going forward, your two outside corners need to be a combination of Eli Ricks, Josh Jobe, and Kelee Ringo. That's who your outside corners need to be. James Bradbury needs to be benched. He has been cooked this entire season. He has been getting cooked this entire season. Even when Slay comes back, I don't even think I want Slay out there. I do not think I want Slay out there. Start putting those young corners out there. Start getting them some experience. Because guess what? I got a feeling those young corners are going to be asked to step up next year. Come next season. And speaking of next season, people are already talking about next season and what's going to happen and things of that nature. And there's talk. There's serious talk about, at least amongst the fans. Some of the fans think that Nick Sirianni is on a hot seat and could possibly be fired at the end of the season. The only way I see that happening, and this is just how I see it, the only way I see that happening is while the offense has been struggling this entire season, for real. Well, I mean, it's had its moments. Within the last 2-3 weeks, it's been really struggling. The Eagles are automatically going to the playoffs. They have earned a playoff berth, so there's no getting around it. They're going to the playoffs, no matter what the seeding is. The only way I see Nick Sirianni getting fired is if two things have to happen. And I'm thinking about how Doug Peterson got fired. If everybody remembers, Doug Peterson got fired because he had Mike Groh as his offensive coordinator, and upper management asked him to change the offensive coordinator. Doug Peterson refused, and that's what led to the firing of Doug Peterson. Two things have to happen for Nick Sirianni to be fired. This offense has to completely collapse, and I mean collapse way worse than what we've seen so far, and it's possible. The offense has to completely collapse. That's number one. And number two, the same scenario that I just said to you, that was the demise of Doug Peterson in Philadelphia. will probably be the demise of Nick Sirianni, because I do think that Brian Johnson is in over his head. The play designs do not make sense. The play calls do not make sense. And upper management is probably going to approach Nick Sirianni and say, hey, look, I think you need to find a new offensive coordinator. And if Nick Sirianni refuses, then I think Nick Sirianni is going to get fired. That's the only way I see Nick Sirianni getting fired. I'm not asking for his firing, me personally. I'm not one of those people that asks for people's jobs, especially like when they're young in their career. But I will say this as a whole, and I said this from the very beginning. I said that this coaching staff was inexperienced and that they're young. And that I would hate to see a scenario that they're going through a losing streak and they don't have any experienced coaches or many experienced coaches at the coordinator spots that will help them out in these situations when they're struggling to figure out how to get out of this rut. And we're in that situation now. There is no coordinator that we have right now outside of Matt Patricia now that has experience, that knows how to pull the troops out of a rut like this. And look, like I said, they're going to the playoffs for what it's worth. They gotta, if there's a solution, they gotta go back in a way to fix things. They gotta go back to the fundamentals. They gotta go back to the simple fundamentals: tackling, blocking, simple passing, simple route concepts, easier route concepts. They have to go back to simple concepts to get this offense going first, before we start overcomplicating things. And going back to Jalen Hurts before I close this out, y'all, you made a shift on the defensive side of the ball to light a fire under everybody. I think you need to do the same thing on the offensive side of the ball, because whoever's coaching up Jalen Hurts, whoever the quarterback coach is, I think it's pretty clear and obvious, and in my personal opinion, I don't think he's listening to Brian Johnson too much anymore. There needs to be some sort of change on the offense to light a fire under that entire offense. Not only that, but a new voice to talk to Jalen Hurts and let him know they're like, yo, some of the things that you're doing out here, dude, it's not cool. Doesn't make sense. You need to stop doing it. There needs to be a new voice for him to listen to. You need to make some sort of shift. To what extent, I don't know. I don't know who in that building you would shift that to. I don't know if you bring somebody from the outside. I just don't know. But a change and a shift needs to happen on that offensive side of the ball. And it has to happen sooner rather than later. If you want to salvage this season, if you can salvage this season, just like you made a change on the defensive side of the ball, and it did make a little bit of an impact, excuse me, you need to change the offensive side of the ball. You need to change the people that are talking to Jalen Hurts. A change needs to happen. And you better hope it shifts the change before it's too late.